All right.
Okay, welcome to Syncretism Society Australia. We have a great guest today, an old school friend, a very knowledgeable guy, and we're destined to have a great chat today with the one and only Johnny Pascal. How are you, my friend?
Good, man. Good. How are you going?
Always good, mate. Always good. And how's it going down there in old Sydney town?
Oh, it's interesting. You've got all these people with placards and their faces for the voting for these elections that don't really exist. That people are fooled into thinking that they have the illusion of choice in a so-called democratic society when nothing but a socialism for the rich. That's basically what we're living in, and it's never been more evident than the last 2 years. But I'm glad that a lot of people have woken up to the totalitarian agenda that governments around the world have, and how there's a synchronicity to events that are orchestrated, from the top. And people have become aware that these things are orchestrated. There's no such thing as an accident, a war, or an attack. These things are really all planned, and it's a hierarchy through special operations through these think tanks that kind of run governments through various means. So it's interesting times. The voting is just the most fascinating thing in Sydney at the moment, because you've got all these Muppets that are part of these groups, putting their faces on placards and rallying people, and people go in there and just think that they have a choice. It's just comical.
Yeah, exactly. And what makes, as we know, mate, we live in an electromagnetic world, and here we're going to vote. The votes, and we're going to when you break it down, so elections, the words were electing ions, which are charged particles, and we're electing charged particles to see who's in charge at the polling. Everything's polar polling stations. So yeah, this I knew from a young age, never done it, never turned up to. I knew that, like we were chatting earlier, Johnny, and you said that if your vote counted, you wouldn't be able to vote.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of that quote.
Yeah, if voting really worked, then the world would be a very different place. I mean, the illusion of choice is so powerful, and people are constantly lulled into this hypnotic dream world. It's like a dreamscape for most people. They live thinking that everything is accidental, everything's a black swan event, everything is just circumstances, and everything is all sudden. How the media said, economists could have never predicted this. International relations could have never predicted this. You just, people live day to day, and they're constantly being fed these garbage narratives by the elite, who have long since planned and orchestrated these events. I mean, they have a timeline for events and different contingencies, and studies on how people will respond and what to do in what scenario to break apart any dissent, like QAnon and all this rubbish, which are just simply operated by the CIA and various cronies like the Tavistock Institute and all these think tanks. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there to, that's their job, is to coordinate propaganda and public opinion, and to, get rid of any dissent. You have, New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria Police going to people who post messages on social media that in disagreement with the government. They literally arrest people They arrested a pregnant mum for posting that there's going to be a protest. I mean, that's how totalitarian it gets. And Friendly Geordies, the New South Wales police arrested his producer, which is a satirical political YouTube channel, and they arrested him for political comment. And they throw people in jail. And the judiciary, which these are the dudes which put suppression orders on pedophiles and especially politicians and the top people in the country who are part of these groups where they have rituals that include pedophilia and all kinds of nasty things. To be part of these groups, you have to be very, very morally bankrupt. So that's what the upper echelons wants. They want morally bankrupt people who will toe the line. And if they don't toe the line, they throw them into jail or kill them. I mean, this is, you got mysterious murders and mysterious disappearance like Harold Holtz and all these other, like anyone that kind of, goes, okay, well, this crosses my boundary, they just get rid of them. So, the whole world is operating under the same system. I mean, you've got the same governmental system, the same political system, the same judicial system, the same financial system that's with their fiat currency and their banking, operating in every single country around the world. That doesn't happen by accident. It's all coordinated. And so how can you have the same structures? It doesn't matter what ism it is, whether it's communism, capitalism, social, it doesn't matter what the ism is. It's this hierarchical control, which they just give a different name to. But when you step back and you see it, it's just basically involuntary servitude and by the individual. I mean, I think it was a great French economist and philosopher, I forgot his name, but Bastien or something like that, who basically said that the rights of the individual should be paramount above any group. So if the rights of the individual are violated, therefore there are no rights. So the rights of the individual are higher than any sociocentric identity of the group. So the group does not come first. It's the individual that should come first. And the individual is autonomous and sovereign. And it's it flips it, because that way everything is from voluntarism, where if you want to participate in a group, you can, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. The thing is that anybody knows that, and this is what I keep on mentioning, any native of a country doesn't have the right to produce their own currency. They're genocided. And if you and I are top 1% of the population and we don't have the right to produce currency, who does? And and as you go up, there's more and more of these secrecy orders and secrecy acts that protect the main actors and the main families that are behind everything. And so, you can find all these treaties, and a lot of them are held in Belgium, especially, Rothschild's agreement with William of Orange. That's held in Belgium, for example, and that was written hundreds of years ago, and that still is in effect today. These treaties that go back hundreds of years are still in effect today, and they're carried through succession orders of various family groups and entities. And so these groups, and it's a form of tribalism. They don't mind sacrificing the underlings. They have no respect for the common man. I mean, the common man in Australia, I think it was 99.7% of people wanted GMO labels or banned. And yet we have GMOs. So if 99% of the population don't want something and we still have it, that's the illusion of choice. And that's so open. It's so easy to see. And then when you chunk down to these different things, you need to be in a hypnotic trance of indoctrination in order to believe anything anything. It's just a form of societal control and population control. That's all what it is for the elites. And if you don't like it, if you mention that there's going to be a protest, police will come to your door if they deem that that's what they want to do. They'll come to your door, they'll knock on your door, they'll kick your door down, they'll arrest you, they'll put you before a tribunal. You'll have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to a lawyer who's sworn an oath of secrecy and submissiveness and obedience to the state, where they'll throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. Their careers come first. You know, they'll make $5 million a year and they'll throw you under the bus. These barristers, you know, pontificate, and they're so amoral. They're so amoral. They'll be the ones visiting the brothels and whatnot. You know, I've trained brothel owners. Like, I've had clients who are brothel owners and who are part of the political parties, you know, part of the Liberal Party. They're all Freemasons. He's a Freemason, you know. They show you the grips and what they say to each other, their little identifiers to each other. It's sick. It's sick. These groups, they're sick. And anyone that has any bit of knowledge about it, they call it conspiracy theory. But the problem is that once you have a lot of knowledge, then they target you, and then you become a political target for, you know, they'll put gang stalking teams on you. And if you don't think gang stalking exists, look at what the Aussie Cossack, you know, this guy, they've harassed him, they trail him, police cars follow him wherever he goes. So either they'll use community members for their targeted gang stalking, or if they're a very, very big political target like Friendly Geordies or Aussie Cossack, they'll use the police, and they'll use a special task force to go after, you know, civilians just exercising free speech, you know, and that they don't believe that the government is representative of what they believe in. And for that, they're targeted and thrown into jail, and then they have to fork out hundreds of thousands of dollars into a system where your lawyer works for them, the judge works for them, and he's appointed by them. The prosecutor works for them, gets his paycheck from them. So you're the dumb mug that's paying for all of these people to be there to work against your rights. You know, so yeah, it's comical, the society that we live in, and watching these zombies outside these polling booths, and it's just comical, bro. It's the most, you know, you're voting to give away your rights. You know what I mean? That's basically it. You're saying, yep, I'm part of this system. You know, I'm a straw man. I'm going to put my name there, and you know, I'll acquiesce my personal sovereignty to some muppet that every 4 years that's not even working in your interest, that can be bribed and corrupted like the rest of them. And so eventually you come down to the fact that humans are amoral and they want to live with rose-colored glasses on. That's eventually what it comes down to. Human beings are not moral agents, and human beings like to live with rose-colored glasses because reality is too hard to take. You know, and you talk to, you know, like when Jesus was around, he hung around, you know, the prostitutes, the downtrodden, because they get it. They see reality. They see the hardship. They see the inequality. They see the tax collector and the widow. They understand these lessons, and they understand it. But the rich, you read them a Bible passage or a parable or Aesop, you know, anything from Aesop, and they'll just laugh. They don't care. They're just amoral and bankrupt. Once you have enough money, you don't care. You know, people are gluttonous. They want more and more and more. And you know, that's the way the world has shaped them. You know, we were talking about, you know, teenagers and how teenagers, especially in Western countries, rebel and fight their parents and become very oppositional. But in a lot of countries, that doesn't happen. You know, this is what people don't understand. It doesn't have to be a rebellious period. You know, in Japan, in Thailand, in various countries, you know, that doesn't happen in the same way as it happens in the West. Why? Because it's indoctrination. It's fed to them over and over again through the media. If you don't subject your kids to that environmental condition with other people and societal pressures, media, books, whatever, they don't become that way. It's just, you know, social engineering, you know. And Edward Bernays, you know, he wrote the book on social engineering and how they do it, you know, slowly corrupt humanity. I mean, have you seen the shit that they're pumping out in terms of trying to sexualize children? and try to put this transsexual identity into kids' minds.
Oh,
You know, kids are still eating their boogers, man. Kids are still eating their boogers. They still believe in the tooth fairy, and they're trying to, you know, get them to identify as the opposite sex. It's just really fucked up. Sorry, man. It's just
so crazy, mate. No, but get emotional, mate, because I just said to my wife before I came in here, Johnny, that, you know, doing these chats with you guys, it's like hitting the boxing bag for me. You know, it's a mental workout that I need, because I too get frustrated. So it's crazy. And the crazy thing is that people can't see through it, Johnny, you know. And like we touched upon, we had a little chat earlier today, which was nice, on the phone. You know, not only do they not see it, there's no getting through to them ever, is there? You know, it's they're gone. They've boarded the vessel. Their vessel is empty, I should say. But yeah, they're no longer able, like, we are not able to penetrate their thoughts. They're vibrating on a different frequency, Johnny.
Yeah, there's layers of indoctrination, because when you peel back one layer of lies, you know, they're reinforced by, you know, 100 others. So you have to kind of just come down to the basic assumption. And what I do, rather than attacking from the surface, I try to get into the core. I try to ask questions that attacks the core first, and then you work your way from inside out rather than from outside in. So, you know, like I said, I mentioned the money. If you and I don't, if they kill the you know, the natives of a country, and you and I, who are in the top fraction of 1%, don't have any rights in order to produce this funny monopoly money, who does? And most people don't know. They say it's the government, and they don't know who the government is, because that's a depersonalized identity. You know, no, it's people. People are in government. People are behind corporations. People are behind banks. Who are these people at the top? What are their names? Who gets to produce it? Who gets to debase currency? Why do prices go up? Who's printing all of this currency in order for prices to go up? Because there's more currency in circulation. I mean, it doubles every couple of years, the amount of currency in circulation. So where does the doubling of currency come from? People just don't get it. You know, if you have, you know, like 5 glasses sitting on the table, and then suddenly you walk back in and there's 10 glasses, somebody has had to put an extra 5 glasses on the table. They don't just magically appear. There's no, you know, people are so thick that they go, oh, it's the government. Oh no, it just grows on trees. It just populates in a cash register or in Coles. You know, it just multiplies by itself. No, the elites are printing more of this stuff on computer screens and giving it to themselves, and they get to spend it into circulation, which debases everybody else's currency very rapidly. That's why Bitcoin is going to constantly go up over a long period of time, because the currency is becoming more and more worthless. You know, you go from $1 a liter of petrol, $1.20 to $1.70 to $2 in a very short space of time. That means that the dollar's purchasing power has gone down. You can't get the oil is still the same, the gold is still the same, the apple is still the same, but the units that you require to purchase an apple, you need more of. Therefore, the value of the apple hasn't changed, but the value of the currency has, and it's devalued. It's been debased because they just print more and more of the stuff, and they're ripping you off. That's why they took everybody off the gold standard, because they couldn't do that. So they removed gold from circulation because they couldn't base the currency. And so when you ask a question, and I always start with money, because it piques people's interest, because people the love of money. You know, they want to, how much is their house worth? How much is this worth? How much is a car? People are very attracted to money. And when you put the allure of making more money, the greed in people is enormous. So the toughest shell is able to be penetrated through their own narcissistic greed. And once you penetrate that from the core, and you start asking them these questions and they start thinking about it, and then you say there are opportunities. If you know how this works, there are opportunities to make a lot of money, you know, and then they go, okay, tell me more. And then they get really interested. And then you just ask them the question, where does all this currency come from? If you put $100 in a drawer and you come back 10 years later, can you purchase the same number of goods? And they go, no, I can only get half. Why? Inflation. Where does that come from? Is that $100 in the drawer a good store of value? They go, no. But what happened if you put some gold in the drawer and you came back 100 years later? Can you still buy something with the gold? They go, yeah. But what happens to your $100 Australian in the drawer and you come back 100 years later? Can you buy something with it? They go, no, you couldn't even buy a piece of chewing gum in 100 years time. You know, and then they start to cotton on that, hey, this is designed. This is designed. Who does this benefit? You know, why is this through stealth? Why doesn't the media tell me any of this stuff? Oh, who owns the media? Is it the little guy or the big guy at the top who benefits from all of this? Oh, it's the fucking big guy. Okay, so are they for you or against you? They're against me. Oh, okay, so they're against you, you know, and you slowly chunk up from there. And then they go, fuck, so the media is against me. I can't believe them. And they just lie to me about everything. Wow. And then the education system, who was that designed by? Who are the books written by? Oh, shit. You know, they have to toe the line. If they don't toe the line when they write the books, they don't get published. They get booted out. And slowly, you find that there's fewer and fewer people at the top that really run everything. And anybody that goes against their superiors, they're out. You know, so publishing houses, the top 5 people in the publishing house going to be part of their societies, part of their groups. If they go against and print something else, then the bank's not going to give them a loan. Then they're going to go bankrupt very quickly. Their houses are going to be confiscated. Next thing you know, in 3 months' time, the publisher who was worth $100 million all of a sudden is out on the street. And I've heard these stories. I've heard these people get attacked. And I've seen very, very wealthy people who just drew the line all of a sudden out on the street. And they see that. They see like they make examples of members who have resisted their agenda. They've seen what happens to them. So in the end, you're too scared to speak out. Any doctor or lawyer that sees what's going on, if they disagree with the agenda, mate, they're targeted. They're disbarred. Their license to practice medicine is taken away from them. If you say anything against vaccines at all, despite the evidence, if you just quote a published study, that shows the dangers of vaccines, that's it. You're out of a job. You'll be hauled before a court and a tribunal. You'll have to pay for a lawyer who works for them. You got no chance of defending yourself. And not only that is if you're I know one doctor who works against the medical establishment because they deliberately kill patients. Most people don't know that hospitals are like assassin factories. That's modern day. Assassinations happen in hospitals. People don't know that. You go into a hospital, if you're politically targeted, you don't get to walk out of there. You have a heart attack or a stroke in there, it's catastrophic. They can't save you. They don't tell you that they've killed you. They inject you with huge amounts of morphine, you stop breathing. That's not in the report. They inject huge amounts of insulin, until you die. That's what they do. I've spoken to specialists. They literally have told me that. One of the specialists, she's passed away now, but she literally told me that they knock off patients all the time. They knock them off. And the 2 ways that they knock them off are through huge doses of morphine and insulin. She told me that. Like, I heard that firsthand. And I'm saying, especially older people who don't have families that visit them, They said, yeah, look, they don't have any families. They're taking up a bed space. There's too many people in this world. We knocked them off. We just constantly increase their morphine until their breathing becomes depressed and they pass away. That's what they do. And this is firsthand information. Like, I'm not talking that I just Googled this. I've talked to former members of the Liberal Party. I've spoken to, brothel owners, the coppers, mate. They're married. The politicians, they're married. They go in there and they get girls for free. That's what they do. They go into brothels, and the brothel owner just, lets them have sex with the girls, pays the girls, and they're allowed to do that. I mean, that's the crazy thing. You know what I mean? We live in a corrupted society, and people don't want to know these things, but that's a fact. They can get everybody to wear a mask, but they can't stop pedophilia. They can get everybody to wear a mask and check in, but they can't stop drugs. I mean, who's running the drugs? It's who's human trafficking. Who's human trafficking? It's not your local barber that has an aeroplane or a private jet. You know what I mean? Who's doing this shit? Who's running the money? Westpac, ANZ, Combank, they're all involved in it, bro. Who's you? It's not like people are carrying, gold and exchanging it with one another. They know all the transactions. You can't withdraw more than $5,000 without being tagged by AUSTRAC. You can't transfer, withdraw, or do anything. They know where all the money is. They know everything's recorded on these friggin' phones and emails and voice communication. You can't communicate with anybody in the world without these guys tracking you. So who's doing it? It's the guys at the top that are running everything. And then if they have, and if anybody disagrees with them, and they get their patsies, and then what they've done now is that, okay, they get a few Catholic priests, they get a few of the pedo priests, right before they're about to die, just so they've had their life right before they're about to die. They go, okay, we'll placate the masses because the masses are waking up. We'll blow this up in the media and we'll get a couple of them. They're no longer part of our group anymore. Let's do it. But for 40, 50 years, they did nothing about it. It's not like the evidence 50 years later is any stronger.
Well, we know about that firsthand at the school we went to, mate, with the brothers and the priests. They were all sick. I can still remember, mate. It was classic. All the Greek guys used to hang out. And there was that kid, Michael Semios, I think his name was. But mate, they all started undressing this brother, and caressing him and all this sort of stuff, right? And honestly, the brother's there, he's going, "Stop it, boys. Stop it." It was really sick. It was really sick. He was loving it, and it actually became like the kids started doing it. And then actually, the belt came off, and it got to the point they were feeling uncomfortable. It was like, all right, well, we'll just put the belt back on. They're not right in the head, mate.
Yeah, the one particular brother, he picked, I think it was about 6 children, and what he did. I was in this group, right? And he says, so we're going to do, it's a religious studies group kind of stuff. And he made it all about, understanding spiritualism, and he's running a special session, all of this kind of bullshit. And, talked about meditation and in Christianity and stuff. And he got everybody there to sit down and close their eyes. And then he came and gave everyone a little bit of a massage. In order to relax.
Oh, so good. So funny. Fucking.
And
creep.
yeah, I've never sorry, I've never told, I don't think I've told anybody this.
I know the brother you're talking about, mate.
Yeah, I know. And you probably know one of the guys in the room who ended up being come out as gay. So you know who I'm talking about, and who else was in the room.
Yes.
And so Yeah, I had to get out of there after
So
about
funny, man.
after
I've been in the same experience, mate. And I was ruining his meditation sessions because I kept laughing. And
okay.
he'd say something like, now imagine, he spoke like, now imagine yourself behind a boulder. And I can still remember it, behind a boulder. And I lost it, mate. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and he actually came and he put his foot on my head like a piece of dog shit. And he just stayed his foot on my head and he was like, shut up. And I said, get your foot off my head.
Yeah.
And then, but anyway, those are the days, mate. Like you'd go home and
Yeah.
tell your parents and they would say, well, what did you do wrong? You know,
But
there's no protecting us
he
either.
started caressing the boys like on their arm and on their face as they're relaxing. So he's giving them a massage, starts caressing them. Like, I mean, you don't need to be a genius to figure out how inappropriate that is. I mean, it made me, like, when I opened my eyes and I just went, fuck, man, like it made you like fucking like an iron rod up your spine, like get the
Yeah,
fuck out of there, you know,
yeah, man.
like alarm bells, you know. Any normal person is just like, fuck this, you know. And in the end, I think, I don't know about you, but you know, we're told to always accept, you know, accept the gays, accept the whatever, and that's all fine. Like, I have gay friends and people that I know that are gay. Like, I wouldn't, you know, I'm not close to them, but I get along well with some of them, really well, and that's all well and good. It's just when it's thrust upon me, I feel aggression. You know what I mean? You do whatever you want. You do you. I do me. But don't try to force yourself onto me. And I've had a couple of gay guys try to force themselves onto me, and be quite aggressive. And I've literally had to physically, you know, like, you know, it got into a tussle. And
Did he
you
grab
know,
your joystick? Because he trying to grab
I,
you.
I've had that before. No, not the brother, but I've had gay blokes. You know, one in particular grab me downstairs, and obviously that sets off an extreme amount of violence in me, where, you know, like, I really had to resist punching the guy, but in terms of a powerful shove and knocking them off their feet and banging them into a wall, you know, yeah, to get them away from me, yeah, like, I'll defend myself. But if it was to continue, I would have really hurt the person. In the end, it was just a defensive, instinctive reaction from me. But I think a lot of heterosexual males, when they're grabbed or they're touched, feel an extreme amount. Like, personally, I feel an extreme tendency towards wanting to hit somebody, in particular that's causing the abuse. So it's just me. So at that point, you know, it's best for me to leave the situation.
What
You
if
know,
it's
if
a really big, muscly one?
I don't care.
A gay UFC fighter.
Doesn't matter. You know, you can, UFC. I'll tell you something about that. UFC. It's funny, right? But UFC is sports combat. It's not real combat. You hit somebody in the throat, they're gonna die. You know what I mean? You put a thumb in somebody's eye, they're gonna go blind. You know what I mean? You put your finger in somebody's mouth and you rip it, you're gonna tear their cheek. You know, you hit somebody in the nuts, they're gonna go down. You step on somebody's foot and you push them, you're going to break their leg. Their foot will break. So, you know, you grab the ear and you pull it. You know, you can take a chunk out with your teeth, a chunk of flesh. If you bite them in the neck, they're going to die. They'll die within 3 minutes if you bite somebody on the neck. You know, if you take out a chunk of flesh and you rip the artery, they're dead. Less than 3 minutes. You know, so
be careful of these zombies, mate.
Yeah, so real fighting and real combat, it's not pretty and it doesn't look great and it's not sporty. And real self-defense, man, it's over in like 10 to 15 seconds at the most. It's over, and it will end up with somebody, you know, unfortunately being very, very hurt.
Yeah.
You know, this whole idea of punching and fighting and stuff like that, that's not real combat. That's not real combat. So, like the military, they're really trained really well. They'll defend their weapon, which is usually a pistol, and they'll shoot somebody, and that's the end. They'll shoot them a couple of times until they go down. But you need the shot to count, because if you shoot somebody in the wrong area, it won't stop them until you put them down. So, like, because the body goes into shock, it doesn't feel the pain. It's just blood loss and shock. But sometimes some people, like even you taser them, they're not going to go down. So, even if it was a muscly guy, even if it was 10 people,